I still remember that night like it happened yesterday. My name's Emily Carter. I'm 31, living in a tiny one-bedroom apartment in Portland, Oregon. 3 weeks ago, my parents threw their massive 45th anniversary party at their lakefront home in Lake Oswego. I was helping set up when the bombshell hit, and believe me, it hit hard. 30 people in the room, 30 pairs of expectant eyes. My dad, Richard, in his crisp white button-up, that smug grin he always wears, stood up. "We're taking the whole family to Hawaii next week. Maui, 4 seasons, the works." Everyone cheered. My little brother squealed like it was Christmas morning. My aunt clapped. My cousins laughed. And me? I imagined myself there. Ocean breeze, sand under my toes, stress melting away. Then I asked the one question that changed everything. What time's the flight?" Dad froze. Mom's smiles stiffened. Then, in front of everyone, "Emily, you don't need to know. Someone has to stay back and watch the kids." 30 eyes. 30 witnesses. I had just been told I wasn't part of my own family. For a moment, my chest tightened, a mix of shock, disbelief, and that familiar sinking feeling of being invisible. All my life, I had faded into the background, and now, right there, it was official. But here's the twist. They didn't know I had a secret, something I'd been quietly building for 3 years, something that gave me power and purpose. That night, I decided it was time to use it. Stick around. What I did next didn't just shock my family, it changed my life forever. And here's what I want you to imagine. 30 faces, all smiling and celebrating, and me standing there with a heart that suddenly realized I didn't need their approval anymore. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of years lift slightly. That moment, being excluded, being overlooked, was the spark I needed. Little did they know, Emily Carter, the girl they thought they could ignore, was about to make herself impossible to overlook. And trust me, what happened next, it wasn't just a small rebellion, it was the beginning of something that would shake this entire family to its core. So, sit tight. If you think this is just a family drama, think again, because Emily's story is about hidden power, overlooked voices, and a transformation you won't see coming. The Carter's house isn't small. 4 bedrooms, 2-car garage, perfectly manicured lawn. Anything you'd see on Lake Oswego's best yard tour. Dad, Richard, had retired from a bank executive role 3 years ago. Mom, Karen, never had a real job, but ran PTA committees, church groups, and somehow managed everyone else's lives. Then there's my younger brother, Ryan, married to a high-powered attorney, 2 kids, brand new BMW SUV, always dropping firm names casually in conversation. And me? My 10-year-old Honda Civic parked on the street. Mom's classic line, "Emily, move your car." I never questioned it. Being overlooked becomes second nature. I work part-time as a freelance accountant, nothing glamorous, but 3 years ago, after a brutal breakup with the guy I thought I'd marry, I bought a Canon DSLR, and I started photographing the unseen Americans. Janitors at 3 a.m., street performers, strangers at bus stops. I called it Unseen Americans. No face, no name, just people who were often invisible, but not to me. Over 3 years, I built a following of 12,000 who understood my perspective. And then, 3 weeks before the anniversary party, an email came from a gallery in Santa Monica. They wanted to discuss my work. In that moment, I realized something important. I had a choice: stay invisible, continue fading, or finally step into a world that might actually see me. I'll admit, I hesitated. Thoughts swirled in my head. Could I really leave the family I grew up with? What would people think? Could I finally belong somewhere else? But deep down, I knew this. My life wasn't meant to be a background decoration in my family's perfect little picture. And here's the thing. This choice wasn't just about leaving or staying. It was about being recognized, being valued, and finally taking control of my own story. Picture it. My little apartment in Portland, my camera by my side, emails from strangers praising my work, my secret world of unseen faces, and then that family party where I was told I didn't matter. It all collided in my mind, the visible life of my family versus the invisible life I had built for myself, and I realized for the first time that I was ready to be seen. What I was about to do next would leave my entire family speechless, literally speechless. So stick with me, because the next chapter will show how a quiet, overlooked girl quietly prepared to turn the tables on her family, and nothing would ever be the same again. The anniversary prep was brutal. I took 3 days off my clients, flowers ordered, table cards handwritten, Waterford crystal polished, every little detail perfect. I wore jeans and a t-shirt all day, changed into a simple black dress by 6 p.m., nothing flashy. Invisible, just like always. Guests arrived. Men in sports jackets, women in cocktail dresses, champagne flutes in hand. Ryan showed up at 7:15 p.m., wife in a striking red cocktail dress, kids like little runway models, BMW gleaming in the driveway. Mom couldn't stop smiling. I held a tray of bruschetta, trying to not make eye contact. A neighbor asked, "Are you with catering?" Mom intervened, polite smile. "Oh, that's Emily, just helping tonight." Polite nods. No one noticed me, as always. Internal reflection tone, soft but tense. I had spent 31 years blending into the background, and tonight, my invisibility was on full display. Then came the announcement. Next week, Hawaii. I stepped forward, keeping my voice calm. "Sounds amazing. What time's the flight?" Dad's smile faltered. Mom's eyes flickered. And then, with that same casual cruelty, he said, "Emily, you're not going. Someone has to stay with the kids." Internal conflict. I smiled politely. Inside, something snapped. Years of holding back, of fading, of being the invisible one, cracked wide open. In that moment, I realized something I hadn't admitted before. I didn't have to stay. And it was then, as I scanned the room, that I discovered something that would change everything, not just my role in the family, but the reality of why I'd been left out. Setting and visualization, calm suspense. The party continued around me, laughing relatives, champagne popping, twinkling lights reflecting off the lake, and I, standing there quietly, already planning my next move, invisible to them, but fully aware of my own power. Soft suspense tone. Little did they know, Emily Carter, the girl they thought they could overlook, was about to rewrite the rules of this family, and the consequences would be nothing short of shocking. Stick around, because the emails I found that night, they would explain everything. The betrayal, the cruelty, and the reason I had to finally step into the life I was meant to have. After the guests left, the house fell silent. The twinkle lights dimmed, and for the first time that night, I had a moment alone. And then I saw it. Mom's laptop, still open, Gmail logged in. Curiosity mixed with dread. I clicked on her inbox. Emails to my brother Ryan. Words I wasn't ready to read, but I did anyway. Free help. They thought I owed them my life, my time, my existence. All those years of fading into the background, of trying to be seen, all ignored. I sat there, shaking. Screenshots saved, emails sent to myself. And then, clarity. I didn't have to stay. For years, I had measured myself by their expectations. Tonight, I realized I was finally free to measure myself by my own. I picked up the phone and called Aunt Ruth, my mom's sister, the only person who had ever truly seen me. "You can leave," she said calmly. Go live your life. By 6 a.m., I was packing. Camera, laptop, cashmere scarf for my Canon, 3 suitcases. Each item a symbol of my new beginning. My life, finally, my own. Driving out of Portland, the city waking up behind me, I felt something I hadn't in years. Relief, excitement, fear, and a strange thrill at the thought that for the first time I was stepping into my own story. The streets blurred past, coffee in the cup holder, camera within reach, suitcase packed with possibility. Every mile took me farther from the family that never truly saw me and closer to a life I had secretly built. That night taught me something crucial. Invisibility is a choice only others can impose until you decide to break free. And trust me, what awaited me in California, the gallery, Aunt Ruth, the chance to finally be seen, was beyond anything I could have imagined. But just before I reached it, there was a twist waiting to test me again. So, stay with me, because Emily Carter's journey from invisible daughter to unstoppable force was only just beginning. The drive from Portland to Carmel by the Sea was long. 5 days of open road, small town motels, diners with neon lights, and endless sunsets. Every mile felt like peeling away the layers of a life I hadn't chosen. I photographed everything: the golden glow of the first Nebraska sunset, my reflection in a gas station window, the steam rising from my morning coffee in some tiny cafe I'd never been to before. With every click of my camera, I felt more visible, more alive, more me. By the 4th day, I reached Santa Monica. Marcus Coleman, the gallery owner, was waiting. The gallery was bright, minimalist, white walls and natural light, an artist's dream. He looked at me and said, "Emily Carter, your work speaks for itself." 15 pieces, a solo exhibition, coastal light gallery. Just like that, I wasn't invisible anymore. And yet, even as I soaked in the moment, a small voice in my head whispered, "This isn't over. They'll try to find me. They'll try to pull me back into the life I had finally escaped." Don't let that stop you. Not anymore. I had my camera, my art, and my life in my hands. I explored the coast, photographing the waves, the cliffs, the mist in the morning sunlight. Each photo reminded me that freedom isn't just a place, it's a mindset. I thought about Portland, the party, the emails, my family's expectations, and for the first time, I smiled without guilt. This was my life, my story, my choice. But just as I was starting to feel secure, I sensed something. I couldn't quite place it, a tug at the edges of my new world, a shadow from the past threatening to intrude. Because just as I was beginning to claim my freedom, my family, or at least part of it, was already planning to follow me across the country, convinced they could pull me back into the life I had finally escaped. Stick with me, because the next chapter will show the opening night at the gallery and the moment I realized just how much power comes from being truly seen, and how terrifying it can be when the people who once ignored you suddenly show up. Opening night. The gallery buzzed with energy. White walls, natural light, a string quartet playing softly in the corner. Glasses clinked. Wine, champagne, the faint smell of fresh paint and polished wood filled the air. I stood there, heart racing, Aunt Ruth by my side, smiling proudly. 15 pieces on display, each one a testament to years of invisibility, struggles, and finally, being seen. The first $3,000 sale happened early. I felt a glow I hadn't felt in decades. This was my moment, my life, my power. And then, bam! My brother, his wife, and their kids walked in unannounced. Maui tans still fresh, designer bags swinging, smiles plastered on like they belonged here. Internal conflict? soft empowerment. They tried to guilt me instantly. "We need you, Emily," Ryan said, his voice calm but with that familiar expectation. I should obey, I should serve, I should disappear into the background. Nope, not anymore. I took a deep breath, stood tall, and said, "You can hire a nanny. You can hire help. I am not your free help." The gallery went silent. Guests whispered, intrigued. Aunt Ruth cheered softly. Marcus, the gallery owner, nodded in approval. The power shift was palpable. Internal reflection, calm but firm. I reached for my phone and showed the emails. Proof. Every word, every moment they had dismissed me. Free help. Worthless. Invisible. Shock. Suspenseful tone. Faces changed. Ryan's smirk vanished. Megan's eyes widened. My parents' mouths opened, closed, opened again. Silence, heavy and unavoidable. Strong empowerment, reflective tone. I spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. "I have value. I have a life. I will not go back to being invisible." Excited, victorious tone. They left, humiliated. The gallery sighed in relief. Guests murmured in awe. 8 pieces sold that night, $14,000 in total. Reflective, empowering tone. For the first time, I truly understood what freedom felt like. Not just leaving, but standing your ground, being recognized, and refusing to shrink for anyone. Strong rehook, suspenseful tone. But the story isn't over. Would I ever be able to completely cut ties with my family, or would they keep trying to pull me back? Slow suspense, reflective tone. Stick around, because the next chapter shows how Emily Carter begins a new life on her own terms, learning that absence can be the most powerful teacher, and that some lessons come from the people you leave behind. The emails were crystal clear. Free help, worthless. She should be grateful. Words I'd never imagined seeing applied to me. I watched as Megan's face paled. Derek's confident smirk vanished. My parents' mouths opened and closed like fish out of water. Silence hung heavy in the gallery. I drew a deep breath, feeling the power in my chest for the first time. I wasn't a shadow anymore. I wasn't invisible, and I refused to be diminished by anyone, least of all my own family. I have value. I have a life. I will not go back to being invisible, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Guests leaned in, intrigued. The string quartet paused for a subtle beat, as if the music itself held its breath. Aunt Ruth smiled softly, proud. Marcus gave me a discreet nod of approval. 8 pieces sold that night, $14,000 in total. Each sale felt like a personal victory, a stamp of validation that the years of being overlooked had not defined me. I realized something crucial. Freedom isn't just leaving, it's standing tall, claiming your space, and refusing to shrink for anyone's comfort. And yet, a tiny thought lingered in my mind. Would they ever truly let me go? Or would they keep testing me, trying to pull me back into the life I had finally escaped? I looked around the gallery, the art, the guests, Aunt Ruth. My life had finally shifted. For the first time, I understood the power of being seen. But the journey wasn't over, because freedom, I realized, isn't just about breaking away from the past. It's about protecting what you've gained and preparing for whatever tests life throws your way. Stick with me, because the next chapter shows how Emily Carter builds a new life, learning that absence can be more powerful than presence, and some lessons are learned the hard way. The morning after the gallery opening, I woke up in Carmel by the sea. Sunlight streamed through the window, painting the ocean in gold and blue. Coffee in hand, my cannon by my side, I finally felt at home. Meetings with magazines, gallery inquiries, interviews. Every conversation reminded me my life was now my own, built on my choices, my talent, my voice. The Carters, slowly realizing what it meant to live without me. For the first time, absence had become a teacher, an invisible lesson they couldn't ignore. I walked the coastline, camera in hand, capturing the waves curling into the shore, the mist over the cliffs, the glow of the morning sun reflecting on the ocean. Every shot felt like reclaiming a piece of my life I had never had before. I laughed, truly laughed for the first time in years. I belonged somewhere that wasn't defined by anyone else. My art, my rules, my life. But life has a funny way of testing you. Just when you think it's safe, something unexpected appears. Something that reminds you freedom isn't just granted, it's protected, maintained, and fought for. A message, a call, a hint that the past isn't done with you. And I realized building a new life isn't just about escape, it's about facing the world on your terms and standing strong when it pushes back. I looked out at the horizon, the waves crashing endlessly, and I thought, Emily Carter, the girl who was never seen, is finally unstoppable. Stick around because the next chapter shows how even in the calm of this new life, the past can arrive when you least expect it and test whether freedom is just a beginning or a constant battle. A few months later, I was settling into my new life in Carmel by the sea. Gallery meetings, photo shoots, magazine interviews. Every day felt like a step further away from the family that had never seen me. Then my phone buzzed. A simple text. Emily, can we talk? It was from my mother. Not an apology, not even a question, just curiosity. I stared at the screen. My life, my gallery, Aunt Ruth, the ocean, my cannon, everything I had built with my own hands. And suddenly I realized some things once given can't be taken back. Some lessons once learned cannot be unlearned. For years, I had chased approval, tried to be seen, tried to matter. Now I understood the truth. I mattered because I chose to matter to myself. I walked along the shoreline that evening, waves curling at my feet, the sun setting in brilliant golds and pinks, camera in hand, freedom in my heart. Each shot captured a piece of the life I had carved for myself, a life no one could erase. And I smiled. Some things in life don't need permission. Some victories aren't meant to be shared with those who didn't see you when it mattered most. And that, my friends, is the story of how Emily Carter, the girl who was never seen, became impossible to ignore. Not because anyone else finally noticed, but because she finally noticed herself. So remember this. Freedom isn't just leaving the past behind, it's claiming your life, your voice, your worth, and refusing to let anyone take it away again. Stick around for more stories of courage, transformation, and hidden strength. And remember, being invisible doesn't mean you're powerless. It just means your time to shine is coming. Months have passed since I left Portland, since I stood up, claimed my life, and refused to be invisible. Emily Carter is no longer the girl overlooked at family parties, the quiet background figure, the free help. I am a photographer, an artist, and a woman who finally owns her story. I walk along the Carmel coastline. Waves crash against the cliffs. Sunlight dances on the water. My camera in hand captures a world I once only observed from the sidelines. Freedom isn't just leaving, It's knowing your worth, standing tall, and never letting anyone diminish your light. I am Emily Carter, the girl who was never seen, now impossible to ignore. And my story is a reminder, no matter how invisible you feel, your life, your voice, and your worth are yours to claim. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe for more untold stories just like this. Remember, being invisible doesn't mean you're powerless. Your time to shine is always coming.